in a striking revelation that has reignited public fascination with one of the most tragic moments in modern royal history. Britain's leading forensic pathologist, Dr. Richard Shepherd, has detailed the extraordinarily rare and delicate injury that ended the life of Princess Diana. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. Decades after that fateful night in Paris in August 1997, when the Princess of Wales died following a high-speed car crash in the Pont de Lama tunnel, Dr. Shepherd's insight provides an explanation that cuts through years of speculation, conspiracy theories, and unanswered questions. For over 2 decades, the public has debated whether Diana's death was truly a tragic accident or something more sinister. From whispers of political motives to claims of royal involvement, every aspect of her final moments has been analyzed, theorized, and reimagined. Yet, according to Dr. Shepherd, one of the most respected forensic experts in the United Kingdom and a key witness in the official inquiry into Diana's death, the cause was heartbreakingly simple and tragically human. He reveals that Princess Diana's fatal wound was tiny, so minute and unusual that he had never encountered a similar case in all his years as a forensic pathologist. Paradoxically, it was this very small internal injury that sealed her fate, despite her appearing conscious and communicative to rescuers in the moments immediately following the crash. It was an illusion of stability that masked the silent danger unfolding inside her body. Had she been wearing her seat belt, Shepherd believes the princess might have survived with only minor injuries. Perhaps a black eye, some cracked ribs, or a broken arm. Instead, that tiny internal tear became the cruel twist of fate that ended a life adored around the world. The story of what happened that night has been told countless times, but Dr. Shepherd's forensic breakdown adds a new layer of medical precision to the tragedy. In 2004, a British police inquiry known as Operation Paddit was launched to determine whether there was any credible reason to doubt that Diana and her companion Dodi Fide died as a result of a simple car accident. Dr. Shepherd was appointed to re-examine the evidence with scientific detachment. What he found confirmed what the initial investigation had concluded, but with haunting detail. In his book, Unnatural Causes, Dr. Shepherd reconstructs the chaotic moments of the crash. Inside the Mercedes that night were 4 people. Driver Henry Paul, who worked for the Ritz Hotel in Paris. Dodi Fide, Diana's partner, Diana herself, seated behind the driver, and Dodd's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, sitting in the front passenger seat. As the car sped through the tunnel, pursued by photographers, the vehicle struck a pillar at high speed, a devastating impact that would prove fatal for 3 of its occupants. Henry Paul hit the steering wheel first. Shepherd explains his injuries reflected that. But microseconds later, he was also struck from behind by Dodi, who was a big man and who was still traveling at more than 60 mph. The force was catastrophic. Henry Paul effectively acted as Dodd's airbag, Shepherd notes, and he died instantly. So did Dodi. Diana's position in the car, however, offered her a momentary reprieve, sitting behind Rees-Jones, the only passenger wearing a seat belt. She was partially shielded by his restrained body. Shepherd emphasizes that bodyguards rarely wear seat belts as it limits their mobility, but on this occasion Rees-Jones did. That decision may have saved his life, and ironically reduced the severity of Diana's impact as well. Seat belts are designed to give gradually, absorbing force over a brief moment rather than halting it abruptly. As Rees-Jones's seat belt stretched and the car's airbags inflated, Diana's lighter body was propelled forward from the back seat. She was much lighter than Dodi, Shepherd explains, and Rees-Jones's belt would have absorbed some of the extra force. That cushioning effect lessened the violence of her impact just enough to spare her from the kind of immediately fatal trauma suffered by the others. When rescuers arrived, Diana's injuries appeared deceptively minor. She had suffered several broken bones and a chest injury, but nothing visibly catastrophic. In the ambulance, she was conscious, speaking softly to paramedics. Witnesses later recalled her calm demeanor, unaware that her life was slipping away. What none of them could see was the tiny tear inside one of her pulmonary veins, a delicate vessel deep within the chest, hidden near the heart and lungs. That tear, Dr. Shepard says, was unlike anything he had ever seen. Veins, unlike arteries, do not pump blood at high pressure. They bleed slowly, silently, and without the dramatic external signs of a major hemorrhage. As a result, even trained emergency personnel can miss the warning signs until it is far too late. Her initial period of consciousness and survival after the accident is characteristic of a tear to a vital vein, Shepard explains. Anatomically, it's hidden away deep in the center of the chest. As Diana was transported to the hospital, her condition deteriorated. The slow internal bleeding began to starve her body of oxygen. Within minutes, she lost consciousness. Despite the best efforts of medical staff to resuscitate her, and despite emergency surgery to locate and repair the damaged vein, the Princess of Wales could not be saved. By the time doctors identified the precise source of the bleeding, too much time had passed. They did identify the problem and attempted to repair the vein. Shepard writes, but sadly by then it was too late. Dr. Shepard's reflection on her injury carries a tone of clinical precision, but also deep human regret. The pathologist calls her death a classic example of the way we say after almost every death. If only she had struck the seat in front at a slightly different angle. If only the car had been traveling just a little slower. If only she had been rushed to the hospital more swiftly. Each of these variables, he suggests, might have made the difference between life and death. Yet, one factor stands out above all: if only she had worn her seat belt. That simple act, fastening a seat belt, could have transformed the entire outcome of that night. If Diana had been wearing her seat belt, Shepard says she would probably have appeared in public 2 days later with a black eye, fractured ribs, and maybe a broken arm. Instead, the combination of speed, circumstance, and one rare anatomical injury conspired against her. Dr. Shepard is unambiguous about the cause of death. The pathology of her death is, I believe, indisputable, he asserts. But around that tiny fatal tear in a pulmonary vein are woven many other facts, some sufficiently opaque to allow a multitude of theories to blossom. Those theories, of course, refer to the decades of speculation suggesting that Diana's death was no accident at all, that it was somehow orchestrated or covered up. Shepard, however, stands firmly by the evidence. I entirely concurred with the findings of the inquiry. He concludes, "It was a tragic accident." In a sense, Dr. Shepard's account brings the story full circle from mystery and rumor to science and clarity. His explanation doesn't strip away the tragedy or diminish the haunting what-ifs that surround Diana's death, but it reframes them through the cold, exacting lens of medical fact. It reveals how fragile life can be, how a seemingly minor wound, invisible to the naked eye, can silence one of the most iconic voices of an era. Princess Diana's death was not the result of grand conspiracy or malicious design, Dr. Shepard suggests, but of terrible chance. A single unfastened belt, a small tear in a hidden vein, and a few fleeting seconds of impact, that was all it took to end a life that had touched millions. And so, even after decades of inquiry and analysis, the truth may be both simpler and more heartbreaking than anyone imagined. The people's princess was not brought down by shadowy forces, but by the cruel randomness of fate itself. Paris, August 31st, 1997. A night drenched in tragedy, mystery, and sorrow. It was meant to be another evening of glamour and privacy for Princess Diana, a woman who had lived her entire adult life beneath the merciless glare of the world's cameras. That night, she hoped to slip into the shadows, away from the tabloids, away from the noise. But destiny had other plans. The flashing bulbs of paparazzi trailed her as if drawn to the very light that had once captivated the world. The car, a black Mercedes S280, sped into the tunnel at the Pont Lama in Paris, its engine growling with the desperation of its driver trying to escape the relentless pursuit. In mere seconds, it would all be over. Metal met concrete, glass shattered, and silence fell where laughter and whispers had been moments before. Within that silence lay the end of an era, the silencing of a voice that had come to symbolize compassion, rebellion, and vulnerability in equal measure. What followed was confusion, shock, and grief on a global scale. The woman the world knew as the people's princess was gone, and millions could hardly believe it. How could someone so vibrant, so full of life and love, vanish in an instant? The questions piled up faster than the answers could come. Conspiracy theories sprang forth like wildfire, claims of sabotage, whispers of royal plots, stories of secret agents, and political silencing. But beneath the storm of speculation lay a simple, heartbreaking truth, a truth that would take years to be fully understood. When Dr. Richard Shepherd, one of the United Kingdom's most esteemed forensic pathologists, was called upon to review the evidence years later, he approached the case with clinical precision and an unwavering sense of duty. He was no stranger to tragedy. His career had taken him to the heart of countless violent, mysterious, and complex deaths. Yet nothing could have prepared him for the weight of this particular case, the death of Princess Diana, the most beloved woman of her time. Shepherd's task was not to interpret rumors or public emotion, but to search for the physical truth that lay within the body, and what he found was both astonishing and haunting. The injury that took Diana's life was not what many imagined. It was not a catastrophic head wound or shattered ribs or crushed organs as one might expect from a high-speed car crash. It was instead a tiny tear, a minuscule rupture in a pulmonary vein, a hidden vessel deep in her chest. To Shepherd, who had performed thousands of post-mortem examinations over decades, this injury was almost otherworldly in its rarity. It was so subtle, so delicate, that he had never encountered another quite like it. And yet, it was this almost invisible wound that caused the slow, fatal bleed that no one could see in time to stop. That discovery changed everything. It painted Diana's final moments in tragic irony. When first responders arrived at the scene, they found her conscious, breathing, and speaking faintly. To the naked eye, she appeared badly shaken but not fatally wounded. Her beauty, even amid chaos, seemed intact. Her skin was pale but not disfigured, her body battered but not broken. Paramedics reassured her, comforted her, promising she would be all right. And for a time, it seemed she might be. She spoke softly, coherent but weak, unaware that within her chest a slow, silent river of blood was draining her strength with every beat of her heart. Dr. Shepherd explained that such an injury was the cruelest kind, hidden, deceptive, and fatal. The pulmonary veins are among the most delicate structures in the human body, nestled close to the heart, carrying oxygen-rich blood from the lungs. Unlike arteries, veins do not burst violently when torn. They leak quietly, invisibly. The blood loss happens so slowly that even trained professionals might not detect it until the victim has already begun to fade. It was the kind of injury that gave false hope, allowing the body to appear stable while the true danger lingered within. The forensic account of the crash, reconstructed piece by piece, reveals how a chain of minute decisions and coincidences sealed Diana's fate. Inside the Mercedes were 4 people: the driver, Henry Paul, at the wheel; Dodie Fide, Diana's partner, seated beside her in the rear; Dodd's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, in the front passenger seat. They were chased relentlessly through Paris by paparazzi on motorcycles, men who had made their living feeding on Diana's image. Her sorrow, her defiance. Henry Paul accelerated through the tunnel, and in an instant, control was lost. The car struck the 13th pillar with devastating force. The impact crushed the front of the vehicle like paper. Henry Paul and Dodie Fayed died instantly, their bodies absorbing the brunt of the collision. Trevor Ree Jones survived, though barely because he wore a seat belt, an unusual choice for a bodyguard since seat belts often restrict their ability to move quickly in emergencies. But that decision, as Dr. Shepard later observed, may have been the single reason he lived to tell what little he could remember. His seat belt and the car's airbags slowed his momentum just enough to keep him alive, and it was this restraint, ironically, that slightly cushioned the impact for Diana as well. Sitting directly behind him, she was thrown forward with immense force, her lighter frame colliding against the interior with less energy than if Rhys Jones had not been there. Still, the crash was unforgiving. The moment of impact unleashed unimaginable physical stress on every passenger. The energy that surged through the cabin was enough to cause devastating internal trauma, even without visible external wounds. Diana's body endured multiple fractures, broken ribs, minor facial injuries, but none that appeared immediately life-threatening. Yet, inside her chest, one delicate vein had torn. The tiny rupture began leaking blood into the surrounding tissues, unnoticed and unstoppable. As rescuers arrived, they found her conscious but in distress. She was still breathing, still speaking. One of the firefighters who assisted her later recalled how she asked softly, "My God, what's happened?" and tried to move before being urged to stay still. They had no reason to suspect that death was closing in. To them, she appeared stable, even lucky compared to the others. Minutes passed as they carefully extracted her from the wreckage and placed her in the ambulance. All the while the slow internal bleeding continued, draining her strength with every passing second. By the time she arrived at the Pier Salpatri Hospital, her blood pressure was dropping rapidly. The medical team worked frantically, searching for the cause. Her heart eventually stopped, and she was rushed into emergency surgery. It was there in the operating room that doctors discovered the true source of her decline, a tear in a pulmonary vein deep near her heart. They attempted to repair it, to stop the internal hemorrhage that had silently claimed her life, but it was too late. The loss of blood had already become irreversible. Despite every effort, Diana, Princess of Wales, was pronounced dead in the early hours of the morning. Dr. Shepard's later analysis revealed the grim paradox of her final minutes. Her injury was not one that caused instant death. Instead, it allowed her to remain aware, even hopeful, before slipping into unconsciousness. That gradual decline was what made her case so tragic. In another world, with slightly different circumstances, a different angle of impact, a few seconds faster response, or simply the wearing of a seat belt, she might have lived. Shepard's words capture this haunting thought with painful clarity. Her death is a classic example of the way we say after almost every death, if only she had hit the seat in front at a slightly different angle. If only she had been thrown forward 10 mph more slowly. If only she had been put in an ambulance immediately. But the biggest if only in Diana's case was within her own control. That final line echoes like a lament through history. If only she had worn her seat belt. It was a small human oversight, one countless people make every day without consequence. But for Diana, it was the difference between life and death. Shepard was certain that had she been restrained, her injuries would have been little more than superficial. If she had worn a seat belt, he explained, she would have probably appeared in public 2 days later with a black eye, fractured ribs, and maybe a broken arm. Instead, the world mourned her as a fallen icon, a mother whose sons would grow up without her guidance, a woman whose kindness and courage had touched millions. In the years that followed, speculation about her death never truly ceased. From alleged government cover-ups to theories of sabotage, the story of Diana's final hours became clouded with intrigue. But Dr. Shepard's testimony, grounded in medical science, stands as a sobering counterpoint to the mythology. The pathology of her death is, I believe, indisputable, he declared. Around that tiny fatal tear in a pulmonary vein are woven many other facts, some sufficiently opaque to allow a multitude of theories to blossom. But I entirely concurred with the findings of the inquiry. It was a tragic accident, and that is perhaps the cruelest truth of all, that something so monumental, so world-shaking, could result from something so small. A single tear in a hidden vein, a seat belt left unfastened, a car moving a fraction too fast. The chain of fate was delicate and merciless. In a world hungry for grand conspiracies and dark plots, the reality of Diana's death may be far more devastating. It was the randomness of chance that took her from the world as doctor. Shepard's findings remind us Diana's final moments were not defined by malice, but by the fragility of the human body and the unpredictability of life itself. One moment, she was conscious, speaking softly in the wreckage of a crushed car. The next, she was slipping silently into eternity. The people's princess, who had once brought light to the darkest corners of the royal world, became a symbol of loss and the fleeting nature of existence. Her death, like her life, continues to move hearts around the world, a testament to the woman she was and the mysteries she left behind. For Dr. Shepard, her case remains one of the most unforgettable of his career, a reminder that even the smallest injury can carry the weight of history, and for the rest of the world it stands as a painful lesson in fate's quiet cruelty, where a tiny invisible wound could change the course of royal history forever. The aftermath of Princess Diana's death was unlike anything the modern world had ever witnessed. The sun had barely risen over Paris when the news began to spread, rippling across television screens and radio stations with a kind of stunned disbelief. It was Sunday, August 31st, 1997, and millions around the globe awoke to headlines that felt impossible to process. Princess Diana dead in Paris crash. The words seemed unreal, as though the media that had followed her every move for years had somehow made a mistake. But as the hours passed and confirmation poured in from the French authorities and the British Embassy, the truth settled in like a cold shadow. The most beloved woman in the world was gone. In the United Kingdom, the impact was immediate and seismic. Crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and Althorpe, the Spencer family estate. They came in silence at first, their faces etched with disbelief and sorrow. Soon, flowers began to pile up at the palace gates, creating a sea of color that grew by the hour. Bouquets, letters, candles, teddy bears, and handwritten notes covered the ground until the air was thick with the scent of grief. It was an outpouring of emotion that stunned even the monarchy itself, a spontaneous eruption of collective mourning that transcended